Marvel really just live streamed chairs for almost 6 hours straight and had me glued to my screen. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I have never had more fun staring at chairs. The only problem is that every time I blink, I see a chair now. They're burned into my retinas. I can't remember what anything else looks like. There is only chair. And so do so many other people, because the video had 10 million views on Twitter alone when it ended. So I don't want to hear anyone say that the MCU is dead ever again. Honestly, it's insane of them to casually drop this on a Wednesday afternoon, but I am very grateful because it has finally given us some idea for what to expect in Avengers Doomsday as the film enters production. The chairs have enlightened me into finally seeing a vision for this film, which honestly has me a lot more excited than I thought I was just a few days ago. I'm not going to make you wait all day long though, so here's the full cast in the order they presented them. Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Vanessa Kirby as the Invisible Woman, Anthony Mackie as my GOAT Captain America, Sebastian Stan as Bucky, Letitia Wright as the Black Panther, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Wyatt Russell as US Agent, Tenoch Huerta as Namor, which by the way completely caught me off guard. I did not know when we were going to see him at all in the future, so I think it's really cool that he's included in this. But here's the thing, as Ebon Moss-Bachrach is returning as The Thing, Simu Liu is back as Shang-Chi, Marvel finally remembered he exists, Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, Louis Pullman as The Sentry, Danny Ramirez as the Falcon, Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, David Harbour as the Red Guardian, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Hannah John Kamen as my forever underrated favorite Ghost, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, James Marsden as Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit, Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, and also I guess Robert Downey Jr. as White Doctor Doom. But we can just move past that. First of all, this is the most stacked cast ever assembled. I cannot believe how many big names are in this movie. I'm almost scared to see what the budget for these two films are going to be, because I feel like it's going to be astronomically high just paying these actors alone. But I absolutely loved this live stream. I'm sure it sucked for someone who's trying to do their job, but for someone like me who doesn't have a life, I was staring at those chairs like it was my job. It was really cool to see social media come together for this and watch chairs for a few hours as we all gave our reactions to this insane cast being released one by one. Don't get me wrong, 12 minutes between each announcement was way too long. 5 minutes would have been perfect, but that kind of feeling and excitement as the anticipation builds, waiting to see who the next cast member is announced, cannot be replicated. They somehow made that such a thrilling experience for me. And taking a quick look at this list, it's very clear to me that we're missing a lot of big names, which we're going to get to in a little bit, but I think this is everyone currently filming with them in London while the rest are busy. Because if you look at this tweet here from Hernandy_S on Twitter, all the big names that aren't here are currently busy doing other projects, so it makes sense that they won't be on set in the coming months. I have a very strong feeling we're going to get a second part of this, maybe at Comic-Con they reveal the full cast, but for now, this is probably a very overwhelming amount of people to look at, so let's break this down into groups real quick. I'm not going to bury the lead here, so let's just talk about the biggest reels up top, because I don't think I can go much longer without diving deep into the fact that this movie is going to have so many heavy hitters from the original Fox X-Men films. This completely caught me by surprise. I really figured that Doomsday would just be focusing on the original MCU characters in the Fantastic Four as they go up against Doctor Doom. So the fact that we're throwing in the original X-Men in this movie is kind of mind-blowing. I really thought they'd be saved for Secret Wars, but throwing them in here gives me a much bigger understanding of what this film could be about, which we'll get to. I want to talk about each member of this cast one by one real quick, because just staring at this now, I can't believe we're seeing some of these characters come back. Patrick Stewart as Professor X shouldn't be the biggest surprise because he came back in Multiverse of Madness, but it's the fact that we're going to see him again with the entire X-Men team that is so exciting to me. I do have to wonder if they've brought him back to die again, which would be like the third time he's died in live action with the original X-Men trilogy, Logan, and then Multiverse of Madness. It seems like they want him to die as much as possible, so maybe that's why he's back here, but it's just surreal that we're going to be seeing him back, and most importantly, acting alongside Ian McKellen's Magneto again, which is far and away the biggest reveal in this entire announcement for me. I cannot believe that they actually got him to come back as Magneto for the first time in 11 years. The original Fox X-Men trilogy is all over the place, from one of the most iconic superhero films of all time to one of the most hated ever. It is a wide range in quality, but it's undeniable that Professor X and Magneto absolutely carried those films, so I cannot tell you just how excited I am that we're going to be seeing them back together again. It's going to be such a welcome return to see him back, along with so many other characters like Alan Cumming's Nightcrawler. I absolutely adore Nightcrawler. He's on my Mount Rushmore of X-Men characters, along with Rogue, Iceman, and Cyclops. And the way they used him in X2 was so fascinating, and I always felt that those Fox movies really underutilized him, so I have the biggest smile on my face seeing him back in this movie. But I think the member of this cast that I'm most happy for to see back is James Marsden as Cyclops. Oh my god. Having him return for this movie is going to be such a rewarding viewing experience. I have no doubts in my mind that they're going to do this, but if they don't put him in that yellow spandex, we're going to have some serious problems, okay? I need them to steal that line from X-Men 97 bar for bar. We need him making fun of that black leather and finally see him embrace this comic book aesthetic. He should have been one of the best cast superhero characters of all time, but those movies for some reason did not like Cyclops at all and kept cucking him out to Wolverine, which will never not piss me off. I have as much disdain as I do nostalgia for that original Fox X-Men universe for how they treated some of those characters and how they ruined Cyclops' reputation up until X-Men 97 had to put the world on notice and remind him how cool Cyclops is supposed to be last year. So I really don't think there's anyone on that cast who deserved a second chance more, because he genuinely seems so perfect and passionate about this character, and those movies didn't want anything to do with him. So now to have him in a film that will hopefully treat him right and show him as the capable leader he was always meant to be warms my heart. Just like seeing Channing Tatum return as Gambit. I don't think he's the most perfect casting or anything like that, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find any actor who has more love for the character they're playing than Channing Tatum's Gambit. They threw him in development hell and left him to rot for a decade, so after seeing him in Deadpool and Wolverine finally getting a chance to play that character, I am all for him appearing here. I'm mostly just happy for him as an actor to get this opportunity to play a character he loves so much again, but also in the setting of acting alongside an entire X-Men team. That's gotta be such a surreal feeling, and he deserves this so much. I doubt he's gonna be as comedic as he was in Deadpool and Wolverine, so we're gonna see a much more faithful take on Gambit. And then another surprising addition, as if all these weren't already surprising enough, is that Rebecca Romijn is coming back as Mystique. And yes, I know I mispronounced her name earlier. Please don't yell at me. But this one really caught me off guard because Jennifer Lawrence kind of became the Mystique as those movies went on. So I like that they're maintaining that core cast and bringing her back for this film. I mean this in the most respectful way possible because she was covered in blue prosthetics the entire time. But the second that chair was revealed, I know millions of people around the world just frantically Googled who Rebecca Romijn played in the X-Men films. And I was one of them. Don't worry, I did not remember this one off the top of my head, so you are not alone. I'm a fake fan, I know. And then rounding out this X-Men group is Kelsey Grammer as Beast, reprising his role from X-Men The Last Stand and The Marvels most curiously enough. So obviously that implies that this is the version of the X-Men team we're going to be seeing from the end of The Marvels, which I think is great. It is an easy connection to make, and they've already bridged that gap of bringing them into the universe by sending Monica over there. So I'm very interested to see how they bring this all together. And Kelsey Grammer, by the way, is the definition of wasted in those Fox X-Men films because he was in barely one movie. So I'm very happy we're going to get to see him for an entire film as Beast because I feel like personality-wise, he is spot on for what you want in a Hank McCoy and really rounds out this solid group of casting. There's obviously some characters I'm sad we're missing out on, like Storm and my beloved Rogue, but I have to wonder if they're just saving them for later or if they're not going to be in the film at all because they don't want to blow the budget and they wanted to get just this core team, which is fine. I get it. I'm not going to complain either way because this is an incredible roster that we're going to come into this film with. They better give every single member of this team their comic accurate outfits because it is long overdue to see them in this. Also, I should probably go on the record real quick just so you all know my stance on bringing them back, but I'm still someone who maintained that they should have just recast Kang and done the Kang Dynasty and wrapped up those plot threads in a satisfying way rather than pivoting to Doom so late in the game where you don't even have that relationship with him and Reed yet, let alone his casting, which you all know I don't love. But here's the thing, again, they announced these characters in the principal release, which means they're going to be playing a core role in the film. It's not like these are quick cameos, they're going to play an influential part in this movie. And I think that you can tell a very interesting story here that has some plot threads they've already set up, like at the end of The Marvels. So while it isn't my first choice for what I want this movie to be, I'm fine with it. As long as they aren't our mainline X-Men going forward, which I doubt considering their ages, you might as well go out with a bang in this multiverse saga and just bring them back for one last ride where they can finally do a comic accurate take on these characters and we can see them interact with these heroes. You're never going to be able to adapt Secret Wars the way it is in the comics. You just don't have that history built up. So I think using these two event films as a way to say goodbye to the old era of Marvel movies and give these characters one last ride before soft rebooting the MCU and entering this new era of comic book storytelling could make for a really powerful way to do things. And obviously with an adaptation, you're going to have to change things to fit the medium. So recontextualizing that Secret Wars story as something that is this big emotional emotional send-off to the past as we embrace the future could be a really powerful story that I am completely open for. And I can totally see a version of that story where instead of it being the Ultimate Universe that goes up against the Marvel 616 comics, it's the Fox X-Men films, as that universe can take the place in the story and then you pit these two worlds up against each other. I'm going to keep an open mind going into this because I can start to see their vision here, and the Russo brothers have said a lot of dumb stuff lately. Or not both brothers, just the one who died in that bathtub. Maybe the other one likes to keep his mouth shut and is really chill. But the one interview quote I've really liked from them is when they said that they're not trying to end an era of Marvel right now, but they're trying to start another, is I think a really great way to look at these films that actually has me a lot more interested than I was even when they were announced, because I was concerned you didn't have enough time to do these stories. And looking at this multiverse saga over the last 4 years we've had with it, as this transitional era for Marvel recontextualizes it in a way that I think makes the story hit better, because they're not trying to do this whole saga where they're ending everything in this one story here in Secret Wars and Doomsday, but they're more so just trying to use it to kickstart the next era. And if you have to bring these old X-Men actors back to tell that story, go for it. Just make these two films their last time playing these characters. I can't have them actually doing this until they're 90. I want to see new takes on these characters. I don't want to be tied down to the past. So let's just give them their flowers and let them ride off into the sunset as we embrace the future of the MCU. So while we're talking about the future of the MCU, let's look at who's going to be on the Avengers in this film. We've got the two characters we officially know are going to be part of Sam Wilson's Avengers, that being himself, Captain America, and the Falcon, Joaquin Torres, as confirmed at the end of Brave New World. And then also announced for this film is Thor, Ant-Man, Black Panther, Shang-Chi, and then I'm going to throw them into this group just because they don't fit anywhere else, but Namor, the new king of Wakanda, M'Baku, and Loki, who, by the way, is going to be in a film with Thor for the first time properly in 8 years, which is crazy to think about. But after all this time and all the growth they've both gone through, the sun is finally going to shine on them once again, and that reunion is going to hit like crack. It's going to be the most satisfying payoff in the entire MCU. I'm going to be sobbing like a baby in that theater. But when it comes to the actual team lineup, Marvel really shot me in the foot announcing these characters, because I've had a script in the draft since November pitching who I think should be on the MCU Avengers going forward. So this throws a little wrench in there, but rest assured, I'm still making that video, and please watch it. But this is a very solid group of characters we have going forward. I do wish we had some more Avengers characters announced for this Avengers film. There are some very big exceptions that we're missing out on, but I'm sure there's a very good reason as to why they're not here right now. Joining them in this film are the Thunderbolts asterisk, who consist of Bucky, Yelena, US Agent, Ghost, Red Guardian, and the Sentry. I can't tell you how surreal it is for me as a Ghost fan since 2018 that we're going to be seeing her in an Avengers film. It feels like they're doing that just for me. And Marvel, please, if you're listening to me, let me see her and Captain America interact, and I will never say a single bad word about you ever again. We already know she's a Captain America truther from that one Thunderbolts trailer, and I think that it'd be very important to me just to see them interact in any possible way. I will buy 8 tickets to this movie if you put that scene in. And also, the fact that we're going to be seeing Sam and Bucky fighting side by side together again means the world to me. It's been 4 very long years since the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think with all these dynamic changes they've had since then, where now Sam has Joaquin as his number 2, and Bucky has this alliance with John Walker, putting them all together again is going to be very fascinating, as they've all changed and grown so much since the last time they've been together. And now seeing Sam react to Bucky and Walker working alongside each other is going to be so funny, because while Sam might have some respect for him at the end of that series, he still doesn't like him. I have to say though, it is a bold move to announce basically the entire Thunderbolts cast for this movie, considering the fact that it does kind of hurt the stakes for that film a little bit knowing who survives it. But also, I kind of rejected that idea because a movie doesn't need deaths to have stakes. My interest in the second Guardians of the Galaxy film wasn't dwindled from the fact that I knew they were going to be in Infinity War and Endgame, and they still managed to pull out a lot of surprises there. So I don't think it's that big of a deal that they revealed most of the Thunderbolts were going to be in this movie, but there has never been a character more dead in the history of being dead than Taskmaster, as if those trailers weren't enough of a giveaway to the point where they just stopped announcing her with the rest of the team. She doesn't even get announced for the Doomsday cast. You might as well just title the movie Thunderbolts asterisk, and the asterisk stands for Taskmaster dies. It's so obvious, and I would love a subversion, but at this point, I don't think that's happening. And then, of course, rounding out this insane cast list are the Fantastic Four, being Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, and the Thing. It is so insanely surreal to me that we're going to be seeing the Fantastic Four interacting with all these characters so soon. As a long-suffering Fantastic Four fan, this is all I've ever wanted and more. So the fact that they're going to be put into the spotlight right away means the world to me. I cannot wait to see all these character dynamics we see them form with these heroes, and especially the way they're going to adjust to seeing the MCU's reality and how different it is from their own. as they leave that dazzling retro-futuristic aesthetic for this gray New York City. And in the same movie with the Avengers and the X-Men, we are one step closer to finally seeing a fully realized version of the MCU. I gotta say, it's fantastic. So now that we have this full cast list, I can start to paint a picture in my mind of what this movie is going to be about, and I think that the obvious implication here is that we're going to be getting the Avengers versus the X-Men. With Monica Rambeau stuck in the X-Men universe, it's clear to me that they're going to be trying to get her back, and that is going to cause an incursion that brings these two realities together, and forces them to fight each other where only one universe can survive. It creates a natural conflict between the two as they fight to keep their universe alive with no other solution, and they've already put the pieces together to get to that point, so I feel like it's clear as day that that's the direction this film is going in, but for the life of me, I can't figure out how Doctor Doom fits into this movie. Maybe he has a similar role to Zemo in Civil War, as he's working as the puppet master, forcing these two universes to fight, but it kind of makes him a background character in the movie that he's supposed to be the big bad of, so I'm not very confident in that idea, but I don't know what else they could be doing. And the thing about an Avengers vs. X-Men story is that it's so hard to properly do while keeping all of these heroes in character, because obviously you would think that they just stop and talk it out and try and find another solution, so there has to be some kind of inciting incident that makes it so these two teams don't trust each other and get them to fight, and I feel like Doctor Doom has to do something where he's going behind the scenes and framing each universe with this attack on the other. So right now, that's where I would hedge all my bets on this being an Avengers versus X-Men film with Doctor Doom playing both teams. And I think that's how the Fantastic Four come into this, because I feel like, unfortunately, Robert Downey Jr. is going to be coming from that universe, and him jumping ships to the MCU 616 is going to cause an incursion that gets them involved. So maybe the Fantastic Four are the team that comes in and calms both sides down as they need their help to fight Doom. It is a very easy way to bring them into the story, and it kind of positions them as the main characters of the film, which is what they should be, because they're the Fantastic Four, and this is a Doctor Doom movie, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out how the Thunderbolts fit into all this. Maybe they're just fighting alongside the Avengers here, or maybe the Sentry has some higher calling with the movie, and they're all tagging along with him, but besides that, they are the most uncertain in this film, and I like that a lot. I'm very happy that I can't really predict what's going on here, because it makes the viewing experience so much more exciting, believe it or not. It's a hot take that not knowing things is good, but I like being surprised. And I think that this position we're in right now is very good, where we can start putting the pieces together in our heads, but we don't have the full picture laid out, so they can still hit us with the surprises they need to make this story work. And I'm just as shocked as you are to say it, but they got me with this announcement. As someone who wasn't the most excited for this film because of the direction they were taking, now thinking that it's going to be an Avengers versus Fox X-Men film, they got me hyped. Alright, I'm only a human. I did also see another theory in my Discord server, link in the description, please join, where somebody had the idea that Doomsday opens with them already being in Battleworld with Doom in control, which I think could honestly be a very interesting change that creates this mystery right off the bat as some of these characters start breaking out from his spell and trying to figure out how he won and how they can restore the multiverse. It's a very jarring way to start a movie, but I do like that idea a lot because it naturally brings all these characters together and it puts them in the same place with a common goal. But the only problem with that I have is that that's kind of Secret War's entire thing. That leaked Doomsday concept art from a while ago did seem to tease that idea that Doom is already in control, so I'm very interested to see which direction they go. I still hope it is Avengers versus X-Men because I think there's more storytelling potential here, but I just wanted to put that out there because I thought it was a very interesting idea. Now, some of you might be thinking that 26 characters is a lot for one movie, but my greed knows no bounds, so I'm very happy that there are still more characters yet to be announced. The Hollywood Reporter confirmed this, and Marvel has already started teasing it with Robert Downey Jr. on Instagram, so I have to wonder if they're just going to be announcing them at Comic-Con or if we get another 6-hour-long chair stream, which I hope for. I'm starting to miss those chairs already. So what I've done here is I've put together a list of big names who were left out of this cast announcement, and I think it'd be fun if we go through them all and sort them by who I think hasn't been announced yet, who is being saved for Secret Wars, and who just won't be in these movies at all. So up first, the biggest name that they just didn't say, which honestly shocked me the most, is Spider-Man. I can't believe that Tom Holland isn't going to be in this movie right now. I thought for sure and was dreading them leaning into that Tom Holland RDJ rivalry in the movie, but honestly, I kind of don't want him to be in Doomsday. I think that Spider-Man 4 should be an Ant-Man and the Wasp type film where Peter is off doing his own mission and then gets sucked into this at the end. Mostly because I'm still desperate for a street-level Spider-Man story, and this finally gives us that. But I think that if you save him for Secret Wars, it makes that film feel much more important, and you can build that Doom Spider-Man relationship in that movie while we still get to have his street-level story on the ground. It's the best of both worlds. Just finally give us that Daredevil and Spider-Man versus Kingpin movie, and then at the very end in the post-credit scene, we can see an incursion happen and Peter has to go do Secret Wars. Boom. It's that easy. This is the only time I don't want to see Spider-Man. I'm like an evil J. Jonah Jameson. The two character absences that caught me off guard the most, though, is Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau. Because like I mentioned earlier, Monica is caught in that X-Men universe right now, and Carol Danvers' mission is to try and rescue her. So I figured the inciting incident of Doomsday would be Carol accidentally causing an incursion, going to rescue Monica, that puts these two Earths against each other. So the fact that neither of them were announced yet is just bizarre to me. I think that both of them are yet to be announced, and they're going to be saved for Wave 2, so it still has some big names to rely on. But it was the absolute biggest surprise to me that we didn't see them here. And also, considering the fact that out of these 26 characters, only 5 of them are women, that ratio is just atrocious. We need to fix that, so I would love to see Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau take their place in this movie to tell the story that they already set up and that we need payoff to. So I really think that they're just yet to be announced. Then that brings me to the Young Avengers or the Champions. I don't know which one they're going with, considering there are rumors that there's going to be a Champions series on Disney Plus right now, which I love. So we'll just call them the Champions. But we saw them in the leaked Doomsday concept art, so I feel like they're yet to be announced here too. I can't show that on screen because Marvel will have me shot and killed, and they'll erase any evidence that I ever existed. But I think that in this movie, we're going to be seeing Ms. Marvel, Kate Bishop, Cassie Lang, Wiccan, Speed, and America Chavez all together, kind of operating on their own as this movie split up into different teams we follow throughout the film. And I wouldn't say they're in this film if we didn't see that concept art, but I really do hope we see them form in this movie just so we can get to the Champions series sooner, because that is where my heart lies right now. And also, the fact that Doctor Strange and Wong weren't announced for this movie is very strange.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I don't think there's a character in the multiverse saga who's been more positioned as the main character than Doctor Strange is. And Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme, so if you can't have Strange here, you'd think Wong would be here. So this is what I think is happening here. I think that Doctor Strange is being saved for Secret Wars, and Wong is yet to be announced. Because at the end of Multiverse of Madness, we saw Strange go off into the Dark Dimension with Clea. And I feel like it would be weird if we just saw him in this movie like nothing ever happened. So what they should do is have Strange not be affected by whatever happens in Doomsday, and maybe Doctor Doom rewrites the multiverse, but Strange being in the Dark Dimension with Clea protects him. And when he finally leaves there years later, he comes to a universe that has been completely changed, and he can be our main character for Secret Wars. And I think it's much more interesting if we show Strange missing from Doomsday and have to grapple with the fact that he could have been there to stop this, but he wasn't. It sets him up very well for a character arc, and then we can just see Wong as the Sorcerer Supreme in Doomsday in the meantime. It's a win for everybody. But without a doubt, the character I am most surprised isn't in this film is Madison with 2 N's and 1 Y, but it's not where you think. Why is the goat not in the movie, Marvel? Everybody's been asking, where's Madison? There's been petitions, there's been protests. We've all wanted to see Madison. It's sick and twisted that she got left out of this. She's the main character of the MCU. She's the anchor being. Okay, but for real, it's kind of crazy that there wasn't a single Hulk character announced for this movie. Whether it be Bruce Banner or Jennifer Walters, I really thought we'd see both of them in the film. This is another example because of the concept art being leaked, and it seemed like they were going to be adapting Greenland in the movie, where there's this area where only Hulks live. So I think it's safe to say they will be in the film, they just haven't been announced yet, as they're saving them for that second round. Again, to give it some more credibility with big names. Also, after the success of their movie last year, Deadpool and Wolverine not being on the cast list is wild. It seems like Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds would have a big role in this, as they became 2 of the most popular characters in the MCU, and they introduced the idea of anchor beings, and Deadpool has now become this multiverse character. And especially with the rest of the X-Men cast, it would have been so powerful to see this version of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine reunite with an X-Men and kind of get that second chance. But I think that's because they're going to be saving them for Secret Wars. You build up to that reunion and make the audience really feel their absence. And then Deadpool can just make a little quip about how they couldn't afford them for Doomsday and then they're only in Secret Wars. It's that easy. This next one isn't as surprising considering how the film wrapped up, but it's kind of weird not to see any of the Guardians of the Galaxy in a team-up movie. I get that they're kind of doing their own thing, and they probably don't want to bring the Guardians back without anyone who's going to be able to take over from James Gunn and fill those shoes he left, but I for sure thought we'd at least get Star-Lord in this film. They promised Star-Lord will return at the end of that movie, and I thought that meant he'd be back in an Avengers film because he is on Earth right now. It makes total sense for him to be in this movie, and I was really looking forward to him maybe joining the Avengers or leading his own team or something on Earth. So I think that Chris Pratt is still yet to be announced and is going to be in Doomsday because it makes too much sense for him not to be. And with Tom Hiddleston returning as Loki, my favorite sentient tree, sorry Groot, the beating heart of the multiverse keeping it all together, it's very interesting to me that Sylvie wasn't mentioned at all because we don't know what she's doing after Loki season 2, and I assume that we would see her character play some pivotal role in this film because she's been so intrinsically tied to the multiverse saga thus far. So I say right now she is yet to be announced, and I think she could play a major role in this film as someone who has a greater understanding of what's going on and how the multiverse works. For a lot of people and hardcore stans online, though, the Scarlet Witch not being in this film is a huge shocker. Originally, I would have said that she's yet to be announced and I wanted to keep her as a surprise, but Elizabeth Olsen did an interview earlier this week where she talked about not having an interest to return to Marvel right now, and she wants to do other projects, so I think that she just might not be in the movie. And it makes complete sense considering the fact that she's dead and they have a reason not to bring her back right now, and I'm fine with that. I would rather that they make a season of the Champions, the Children's Crusade, and they build up to bring her back, rather than just kind of throw her in here and half-ass a Children's Crusade story and just do that Doctor Doom Scarlet Witch pairing that I really don't want to see with these two versions of the characters. For these next two, I don't think there was a snowball's chance in hell they were going to appear in the movie, but they're my goats, so I need to bring them up. That being Daredevil and Moon Knight. I think at most, Daredevil gets a cameo just to see how the street-level heroes are adapting to this situation, but I don't expect to see Charlie Cox in the movie. As for Moon Knight, he might be the most cut-off character in the entire MCU right now, so there was no way we were going to see him in this film, which sucks for me because I'm pretty sure that Jeff Loveness confirmed that Moon Knight would have played a big role in his Kang Dynasty story. I'm always going to be mourning what could have been here. So I definitely think that characters like Daredevil and Moon Knight, any of the Defenders, any of the Werewolf by Night characters, they're not going to be in this film. And that's fine. It doesn't really make sense for them to be. And then there are other characters like my beloved Eternals who are paid dust and we're not going to see ever again, which hurts me. I'm going to have to break into Marvel Studios and force them to greenlight Eternals 2 at this point. And it seems like Marvel has just banished someone like Nick Fury to hell for how Secret Invasion ended up. I can't really blame them, but it's going to be weird to do an Avengers film without Nick Fury appearing in the slightest. Oh, and real quick, I want to mention, I think it's very interesting that Chris Evans and Haley Atwell weren't brought up at all during this cast reveal. A few months ago, they were reported by the trades and confirmed to be starring in this movie as two mystery characters, so I thought for sure we'd get them officially announced by Marvel here, but they're still keeping them a secret, which makes me wonder if they didn't want that to get out at all and wanted it to be a surprise in the movie until the trades spoiled it. I did a video theorizing who Chris Evans should be playing in the movie, so go back and watch that now if you want to hear my thoughts on that. But I wonder if they're trying to maybe save him for a big Comic-Con reveal or something, because I think it's very unexpected that they just weren't brought up at all during this big 6-hour live stream. We know they're gonna be in it, so this one doesn't really count, as it's obvious that they're just yet to be revealed thus far. God, it would really suck if they wanted that to be a surprise. Boiler culture is just the worst. That's all the characters I have on this list, though. I'm sure there's more I'm forgetting, like the Wasp, but I don't expect to see her in this movie after Evangeline Lilly announced her retirement. If I missed anyone big, please yell at me in the comments. I would be very interested to see who else we could expect in the future for Secret Wars. To wrap up this video, I just want to talk a little bit about what I want to get out of this movie, because after Marvel hard pivoted away from Kang, it's put them in such a strange position to where they're trying to, it seems like, build hype as they bring in Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, which I'm never going to agree with that casting. Doctor Doom should be played by a Romani actor. And before any of you in the comments say, oh, name 5 Romani actors, that's the problem. We should be able to, but they're so underrepresented in the industry that Marvel can just cast Robert Downey Jr. as the biggest Romani character of all time, Doctor Doom.
Someone whose Romani background tied directly into his origins with his mother?
And for that reason, over the last 8 months since this movie was announced, I've had a very hard time getting super excited for it outside of seeing the Avengers form and the Fantastic Four and all these characters interact. But for actual story reasoning, it feels like this movie is going to be a little bit of a mess. But if you remember the stuff I said earlier about how this is a new jumping off point for the MCU, it's kind of eased my nerves a little bit. I just really hope that they're able to thread that needle well and tell a satisfying story. As of right now, my prediction for this movie that hasn't even been shot yet is that it's going to be a good and enjoyable film. It's going to be a really fun time at the theater. It's going to feel like an event. And I think as a self-contained narrative, just looking at it in a bubble without any comic history, it's going to work. But the second you bring in comic history, like the stories they're adapting or Doctor Doom as a character, it's going to be a very flawed adaptation, if that makes any sense. Do I want this to be the best movie ever made and something that does all these characters justice? Absolutely. If they found a way to do that, I welcome it. But I'm trying to keep my expectations reasonable. I don't think a story like this could ever recapture the magic that Infinity War and Endgame had, but as long as this movie sets us up so in the future we can get those kinds of big, satisfying stories being told, I'm happy. No matter how many preconceived notions I have about the film, I'm going to do what I always do, and I'm going to go into this with an open mind and hoping that it's good. They have all the tools to succeed here, and I'm very much so rooting for them. I just have my concerns right now, but thankfully this stream did win me over a little bit, kind of giving us this pitch for what the movie could be, while still leaving just enough mystery for insane people like me to theorize over in probably half-hour videos. So staring at chairs for 5 hours long and not getting any of the work done at my actual job was well worth it, as I'm feeling much more cautiously optimistic about the future of Avengers Doomsday, which means they're doing something right. But I've already talked for long enough, so why don't you let me know down below what you think about the announced cast for Avengers Doomsday. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, you may as well give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna make sure every single character in this movie is replaced by a chair. Get ready to see the Avengers as chairs fight a Doctor Doom chair. That's gonna be peak.